So Pete, what on a scale of 1 to 10, how dumb, 1 being the dumbest, and 10 being the smartest, is a turkey?
Well,
in
12.
your opinion? A 12.
12.
Thank you.
Hey Pete, did you see the bus that drove by that Sean just threw me under? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Okay. And the tire marks are deserved if you said that. I'm just going to say.
All right.
All right, everybody, before we dive into today's episode, we have some exciting news to share.
That's right. The Casting Faith podcast has officially partnered with
First Form,
your go-to for the best energy drinks, greens, protein bars, beef sticks, and much more to fuel your fitness and wellness journey.
Whether you're hitting the gym or heading out on the water or just trying to feel better every day, First Form has you covered. It doesn't matter if you're keto, if you're vegan, whatever diet you're on, they have you covered. Think premium protein products, top-tier vitamins, and even these delicious energy drinks that fuel this podcast.
Here's the best part. When you shop through the link in our bio, you're not just investing in your health, you're helping the Casting Faith podcast and supporting us to bring you more content.
So go ahead and check it out. Grab what you need because they have you covered, and let's tackle this faith, fitness, wellness journey. Whatever you're on, this is the stuff that will fuel you. And let's dive into today's episode.
I challenge you as a believer, let that power get out.
Blind people received their sight. People have been carried in. We're healed. Nobody touched them. Nobody laid a hand on them. We just praised the Lord and spoke the word of faith, and God began to heal the people.
Here's a fish.
Yeah, let's go! Oh my gosh, he's a big. He landed inside.
He kept me from Scott. Look how massive this is.
The Casting Faith podcast.
Push on.
Welcome to the Casting Faith podcast. Welcome back to another episode. Today we have a awesome guest,
Yes.
Pete Rogers. He's not in studio, but he's, over the screen, and we're so glad you're here today. Pete's a legend in the podcasting community, also in the outdoor community. We're so glad that you're with us here today, Pete.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. I really do. I think, again, that's an overstatement, but I'll take it. I'll take it. Any attaboys, we all need those attaboys from time to time, but thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the show.
Yeah, we're glad that we're on, and we're just going to dive into it today. Pete, we just spent some time with you recording on Christian Outdoors, and we'll make sure that, we promote that and have our listeners come over and hear that. But let's catch up. How are things going with Pete Rogers today?
Oh man, everything's good. I mean, I can't complain, and nobody would listen if I did. So it's been good. I mean, we're springtime here in South Carolina, and excited about turkey season coming up here before long.
Hey, we got some questions for you later then.
trying to get ready for that, but I'm going to miss the entire turkey season this year because of a shoulder surgery I'm having in just a few weeks. But that's okay. I keep thinking maybe I can sit in the blind and put the gun on a tripod and still try to go. I'm sure I will go towards the end of the season. But yeah, it's awesome. Just enjoying life.
So I got a quick question for you here.
Here we
With
go.
turkeys, Charlie's never been turkey hunting. There's a huge debate on our podcast. Charlie thinks it's the easiest, dumbest
That's
animal.
not the words. The words are not easiest.
The dumbest animal on the planet. And my argument is it's one of the hardest to hunt because they can see anything, any slight movement. So Pete, what on a scale of 1 to 10, how dumb, 1 being the dumbest, and 10 being the smartest, is a turkey?
Well,
in your opinion? A 12.
12.
Thank you.
Hey Pete, did you see the bus that drove by that Sean just threw me under? Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. Okay. And the tire marks are deserved if you said that. I'm just going to say.
All right.
And the turkey book I wrote, that the opening line starts with Archibald Rutledge, one of the greatest outdoor writers of all time and one of the most prolific turkey hunters, early 20th century. He said in one of his books, he said, there are hunters and there are turkey hunters, and they're not the same.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you haven't turkey hunted, then you haven't experienced one of the most grandiose and awesome experiences in the woods is hearing a turkey gobble and that sound echo off of the trees where you can just feel it in your chest, and watching that red, white, blue head come moving through the woods looking for you. And he may have the brain the size of a grape, but he will beat you more times than you will ever beat him.
Yeah. Well, that settles
So there.
that.
Well,
Charlie.
yeah.
So his view of turkeys only comes from a very populated area in Northeast Ohio, in Akron area where we live, and he can run up to turkeys and almost grab them by their neck in town. So
Okay.
I told him that's
Yep.
not what turkeys really are like. So
No, but try to hunt them.
yeah.
Right? Try to hunt them in their territory and on their what's the word I'm trying to look for? Try to hunt them on their level. And Colonel Tom Kelly wrote the greatest book of turkey hunting ever. It's called The 10th Legion. It is a classic. If you even think about hunting turkeys, you have to read The 10th Legion by Colonel Tom Kelly. And in there, he makes this statement. He said, every turkey has a currency, and his currency is time. You have to commit the time to it, because they will absolutely leave you humbly dragging your gun back to the truck, saying, "What in the world is it going to take to kill this turkey?" And it is the greatest challenge that I've ever had in the woods of hunting, and I've hunted all over North America from many different species. And turkeys are an addiction.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, it's funny because, I don't hunt yet. And I like to say the word yet because it's something I've always wanted to do. And we got plans to get me out there and learn this thing that I want to do. And so I love to fish and all these things, but to admit, I don't know what I'm talking about. So you guys educated me, and they educate, the listeners have educated me. I do have a very skewed view because, I work at the church, and it's like a vortex of wilderness, even though it's in the city.
Yeah,
wild. Like
we've got some
land.
200-inch bucks that are common in our church backyard.
Oh, 200-inch bucks.
Easy.
Yeah, it's like
they're Boone and Crockett's back there all day. Nobody can hunt them.
Yep.
You have my email address, right?
There's allegedly an old tree stand back there,
allegedly.
illegally, but
allegedly
can neither confirm or deny.
You can't hunt them because you're in the
city limits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know some cities have archery only rules. Do y'all not have that?
I've actually called the mayor's office and petitioned to have a raffle for bow, and like promoted, gave them the business case, how they make so much money, and it would help them with accidents. And they don't want nothing to do with it.
It's sad because, driving through Talmadge, you'll see every year about 5, 6, 7, even multiple more accidents in these nice bucks and does just lying on the, the pavement.
Oh yeah.
Man,
there's more deer killed by cars than there are hunters every year.
Yeah.
Every year.
But
I work for the USDA. It's my real job, right? I work for the USDA with their wildlife services.
Nice.
And, when you watch on the news and they talk about government sharpshooters, that's us. Right. And, somebody's got to do it. Right. But we get, in cities and in towns and in neighborhoods, it was like, we don't want anybody to hurt our deer until they're eating their pansies and eat their azaleas. Now kill them all. Get rid of them all. We want them all gone. And it is such a frustrating thing that if you would allow controlled, regulating hunting and say, in this neighborhood, we need to take out 15 does, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just do that, then you don't have the proliferation of this. They have a safety zone. They just keep breeding, and then they start starving themselves to death. That's why they're eating your flowers, because there's not enough food for them and the little woodlots that they have. I'm on my soapbox now. Sorry.
Yeah. Hey, I got a question.
Yep.
Have you heard of them releasing wolves back in, I don't know the area specifically, but I saw a headline about this where they were releasing wolves back into the population to kind of offset this overpopulation of deer in certain areas in our country. Do you know anything about that?
Yes and no. All right. You got a few stories kind of confused there, I believe, Charlie, is that there has been reintroduction of wolves in the West.
Okay.
And it was not to control the population of prey animals, deer, elk, and the like. It was to try to get wolves back in their native range. Okay. And I'm all for supporting wildlife and doing that.
Yeah.
But the wolf, the people who were pushing this had no idea from a biological standpoint. This isn't from a hunting standpoint. It's strictly science, biological standpoint, how prolific packs of wolves are. For example, in Montana, when they started bringing wolves out of Canada back into Montana and into Yellowstone, we can talk Yellowstone specifically, right? I've been to Yellowstone many times, pre-wolf introduction and post-wolf introduction. And in areas where you would go and you would see 200 elk in a meadow, you may see 15 now, because a wolf is a 200-pound dog. Okay. And they hunt in packs, large packs, anywhere from 10 to 15 to 17 animals, right? You're trying to feed that many 200-pound dogs. Okay. They will kill a pack of wolves, and we'll just use a round number, say 10 wolves, will have to kill 3 to 5 deer a week just to survive.
Man.
Wow.
Or 2 elk a week just to survive. Okay. And then when these wolves procreate, they create other packs, because animals aren't like humans. Animals won't interbreed. Right. So when an animal reaches a certain sexual maturity, they kick it out of the herd so that it won't breed with its sisters and mother and stuff. Right. They kick it out. And all these that get is called dispersal. All these that disperse get together and form another pack. Right. And they do their hierarchy, all that kind of stuff. So now what started with 7 wolves is now somewhere around 180 wolves in Yellowstone alone.
Wow.
And they have decimated the deer and the elk and the moose in Yellowstone. Done the same thing in Montana. I got buddies that are outfitters and guides in Montana for elk, and he has gone from pre-wolf introduction to 100% success on trophy class bulls to a 15% success on bulls. Same area, hasn't changed area. The wolves have just decimated the elk populations, and the mule deer and the whitetail as well. The mule deer are very susceptible to hard winters. All right, so they got a winter kill, and now they're dealing with the wolf that's come in. And we also have free range livestock in the West, sheep and cattle. Well, when they're free range, they're just let out into the range, and the wolves are just, it's a free, easy meal for them. Cattle ranchers are losing hundreds of millions of dollars annually to the wolves. So the wolf reintroduction, to answer your question, is a way to try to reestablish animals back in their native territory, just like how we brought elk into Kentucky and elk into North Carolina, elk into Tennessee, and so forth, trying to get them back where they did that with the wolf. But when you do it with an apex predator that has that kind of an appetite, you got to think down the line of what's this going to do to the prey animals.
Yeah.
Right. And so every Western state that has had really healthy elk and deer numbers, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado's reintroducing wolves this year. Even though they've seen what they've done in these other states, all these animal rights wackos, and I said that word on purpose, don't understand what it's going to do until those wolves start eating their dogs, and start eating their cats, and start threatening their children, like the mountain lions have done everywhere that they've outlawed mountain lion hunting.
Yeah. It's funny that they want us to do environmental impact studies on so many other things, but when it's in this area specific, there was no study done on what could happen.
Right.
And that we're also, and maybe I have stories mixed up, but we're more likely to reintroduce a predator species than we're to let some hunters bow hunt in inner city to control a population. That's insane to me. That doesn't make sense.
It really is. And they did the same thing when they brought the grizzly bear into Yellowstone and into Montana. And all right, so we have healthy populations. Now we need to delist them off of the endangered species list and allow hunting. Idaho has allowed hunting, and if in a certain area of wolves, we're talking in certain areas, they've allowed hunting now because there's so many of them. There's so many. And then you send the USDA guys in there to do the trapping and removal of wolves when they're eating cattle and sheep, right? So you got to delist it once it recovers so that you can allow hunting, because we all know that hunters save species. Mm-hmm. We saved the elk, we saved the pronghorn, we've saved the whitetail, we've saved the mule deer, we've saved mountain lions, we've saved all the bears by controlled hunting.
Mm. Yeah, and I think too, like it's so weird. Like I'm not a hunter yet, but I see this like battle between conservationism and, you know, we got the PETA people on one side and the hunter community, and they're really, like, if you zoom out and you have my perspective, you're both trying to do similar things. It's just that there's like a big block of misunderstanding. Hunting, like you said, hunting saves more than just unfettered, you know, regulations would.
And Charlie, the science is there. I mean, it's just people ignoring the science.
Yeah,
the science is there that in 19, my number's gonna be off by a little bit, but in 1900 we used the white-tailed deer because it's the most popular game species. In 1900 there was about 100,000 white-tailed deer in North America. Now there's about 25 million. Right. And the reason it changed was because hunters said, oh, whoa, we got to have seasons and bag limits. There was no season and bag limits before then. People just go out and kill whenever they wanted to. And they were doing market hunting. For those that don't know, that is going and killing wild animals to supply restaurants. Okay. And that's when the duck population plummeted, because they were killing tens of thousands, millions of ducks to supply to restaurants before farming ducks came into play and before all of those things. And hunters stepped in and said, no, we don't want to do that. And what hunters did in 1931, I think it was we instituted a tax on ourselves. It's called the Robertson-Pittman Act, where everything we buy, guns, ammunition, camouflage clothing, deer stands, arrows, bows, we taxed ourselves 11%. So 11% tax on ourselves. They did that during the Great Depression. Wow. That's how important it was to the hunting community. And all that money goes back to the states to use to manage wildlife. But one of the problems that wildlife managers run into is the legislators. Is the legislators of the states, this happens here in South Carolina, don't let the Department of Natural Resources make the rules to protect the animals. The legislators do that,
and they don't know much about it.
They don't know anything about it.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah,
I mean, they're lawyers and barbers and do these other things. They're part-time legislators, right? And they're not listening to the science. Whereas if you would let the Department of Natural Resources or Game and Fish or whatever your state calls them, let the biologists make the decisions, then we would have more healthy population of animals. We mentioned turkeys earlier. The turkeys were saved by hunters also, by trapping and relocating them across the country.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
That's a wealth
Get
of
me
knowledge.
on my soapbox on that.
Yeah, thanks.
Right
no, you're educating me.
Yeah.
So
sure, all of our listeners will
appreciate that.
Enjoy that.
Yeah.
All that information.
All right, Pete, I got a story. And these stories could go anywhere, but this is the one I have for today. And it's an interesting thing. Imagine you're hiking in the Pacific Northwest and fog starts rolling through the trees and you're soaking in the silence when suddenly you spot something massive moving in the distance. Okay. You see something massive moving through the trees and your heart starts racing because it doesn't look like a bear. It doesn't look like a deer. Could it be Bigfoot? And
I'm gonna start whooping. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Come on, Biggie, let's go. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. So you grab your camera.
I'll grab and start thunking trees. I start whooping at them.
Yeah. And you grab your camera and you start recording just to zoom in, and you realize that it's one of your buddies in a Bigfoot costume pulling a prank of the year.
Mm-hmm. I take that tree that was thumping tree, then I thunk him in the head with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not hard enough to hurt him, but hard enough to know that I wasn't real happy with him.
So this actually happened. This was a prank somebody played on one of their buddies. And I'm thinking, how dangerous of a
That's
prank.
easy. That's a good way to get shot. Yeah.
That's a good way to
Exactly.
get shot.
Especially if
Good
you're
way to
friends with
get
hunters.
shot. Yeah.
So I guess my question with that story is, have you had any experiences or stories from that, like from the topic of Bigfoot?
No, I haven't, and I keep hoping I will.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I have family members, and I don't know if you'll listen to this, my brother, who is like a huge Bigfootian. Well,
Yeah.
or Bigfootite, whatever they call those people. All right. And I'm kind of on the fence on Sasquatch or Bigfoot, and I can break that down if you want me to. But no, I haven't had any of those encounters. Ironically, in the neighboring county, supposedly someone saw one back in early December. It was a game warden. No, it was
Oh.
no, it wasn't. It was a police officer who was out on the lake on a river fishing and supposedly had an encounter with one. I say supposedly because there's no pictures. He just saw it and told about it.
But yeah, when you go out in the woods or on the rivers, you see some things and you experience some things.
I'm a trapper for the USDA.
Mhm.
I'm in the woods 300 days a year.
That's awesome.
Either
You have
on
a
my
dream
own-
job. Just so you
I
know.
really do. I really do. I really do. I was blowing up beaver dams all day today. Is what
That's
I was doing
awesome.
today. I got to blow up some more tomorrow. But anyway, it is a great job. I can't say that it's not. It really is. I'm very blessed to be able to do things I love and make a living doing it. But like I said, I'm in the woods 300 days a year, either for myself or for my job. Probably more than 300 days a year. And nothing. I'm like, I must be, I tell people I'm a deer repellent because I can, I have never killed a really good buck, right? Cause I live in South Carolina. We have 100-inch deer, 110-inch deer. We don't have deer like y'all have in Ohio. But I must be a Bigfoot repellent too. I was hunting in Kentucky a few years ago with a ministry called Iron Man Outdoors. And one of my closest buddy was over the next ridge and he's like, "You ruined my hunt." I said, "What are you talking about?" "You didn't hear that?" I said, "No, I didn't. It was something going whoop." I said, "Oh, that wasn't me." I mean, I'm not going to ruin my hunt when I go out of state. Okay. I'm not going to go to the trouble of ruining yours by ruining mine. That is not going to happen. But he really believes that he heard some whooping going on the, in that area where Bigfoot supposed to has had a lot of encounters. But so my position on Bigfoot is possible, not probable.
Yeah. I think my thought on it is it's probably a bear. What people are seeing standing on its hind legs.
No, they're not seeing bears.
You don't think?
No, because the anatomy is too different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, there goes my theory.
I can give you a scientific breakdown of why I don't think it's probable. It's possible.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right. Remember I mentioned dispersal earlier?
Mm-hmm.
How animals disperse because they want to interbreed.
Yep.
So if you got I don't know if you call them packs or herds, a group of Bigfootians. All right. So you got a dad, a mama, and a couple of babies, right, who grow up to be sexually mature. If they're animals, they're not going to allow those sexually mature ones, males, to stay there. They're going to kick them out of the herd. They're going to say, "You got to leave." So now they got to go somewhere, but they have to find like species somewhere else in order to procreate.
Yeah.
All right. If there's that few of them, number one, how do they find each other?
Mm-hmm.
Right. How do they do that? And if they are there's a lot more of them than we realize, because in order for them to continue the species, they will not allow, animals do not allow interbreeding. Mm-hmm. Mothers will not mate with sons, and sisters will not mate with brothers. That's just the way animals are. It's the way God made them. And so when these males, because you know how you see herds of does, but you see, once the bachelor group bucks break up, there's only single bucks, right? Because the little bucks get kicked out, so they won't breed with their sisters and stuff. And so if that's with Bigfoot, they have to be dispersed, and where are they going and how are they finding like species in order to keep it going? Because we've been seeing it since, there's cave paintings of Bigfoot. So there has to be multiple species.
Yeah.
Hey, Casting Faith crew, let's talk about something that keeps us running strong. Literally, we're proud to partner with First Form, the leader in premium nutrition and supplements.
These products aren't just for gym rats, y'all. First Form has something for everyone. Whether you're in the gym, in the woods, or on the water chasing steelhead or bass, protein powders, pre-workouts, vitamins, greens, you name it, they've got it.
And here's the best part. When you shop through our link, you're directly supporting this podcast. Every order you make helps us keep doing what we love, talking faith, fitness, and fishing just for you.
So don't wait. Level up your health, fuel your passion, and support the Casting Faith podcast. Click that link and get started with First Form today.
Okay, Pete, we got some questions for you. With the Christian Outdoors podcast, what inspired you to start the Christian Outdoors podcast?
Good story. I'll try to keep it brief. I had not even heard of podcast. I was at a writers conference, the Professional Outdoor Media Association's writer conference, and I was getting an award there. So I was at the show or at the convention. So they had a seminar. I just walked in on it and they were talking about podcasting. I'm thinking, wow, this sounds really fun. This sounds like it'd be something I would like to do. And being an outdoor writer for so long, I knew so many people in the outdoor space. The big names. I'm not going to name drop, but I knew almost all of them, and I knew all of them were people of faith by knowing them so well. And me being a person of faith, they don't have a place where they can talk about their faith on Outdoor Channel or Sportsman Channel or pursuing those. That's changed somewhat with some of those networks. So, I had the idea of I want to create a place where we can talk about the things I'm most passionate about. I'm most passionate about Jesus, and I'm most passionate about the outdoors. And so I spent 2 years preparing for it, planning and studying and listening to podcasts about how to podcast and researching equipment and all that kind of stuff. We talked about that earlier. Mm-hmm. And so I just decided, well, I'm going to start. And I picked October 1 of 2019 to start, and had 10 shows in the bank and released it, and went with that. It's because I wanted to talk about the things I'm most passionate about and let other people have a platform to talk about what they're passionate about. And it's done really well. God has really blessed it.
That's awesome. Couple of things there. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced early on with that?
Getting people.
Guests.
That is the hardest part of the show. I'm not a tech guy like Sean is. Okay. So learning how to edit was a big curve for me. I went to GarageBand, and used that and still use that for the audio because it's just so easy and so good. And so learning the equipment but the most difficult part is getting guests and getting them lined up. You're dealing with people in different time zones who work for a living. You try and do them at night, try to do them in the day, and all that. And it's still a struggle. But getting guests is the most difficult part, and getting the guest vetted appropriately to make sure they do fit. That's when I came out with my show guidelines after getting blindsided a few times by some guests. I was like, oh, okay, well, their theology is very different from mine. Mm-hmm. And so we're not going to air that episode. Right. And so I started doing things different and learning as I go. And, that, show guidelines has been a big help. So you just add things as you go, but the most difficult challenge, and 307, the one I did with y'all was 317, and it's still getting people and getting them lined up and getting them scheduled.
Wow. I think too, us being so new into it and having guests on, that may be different in their theology, is navigating that in a respectful way. And so, because we're all believers, we may believe different ways to that. So it's
I was talking about people that were outside the Christian faith, and I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, even within, people have various different opinions on different theologies and things like that. So
the other people are wrong, and I know what we're talking about. I've learned a lot by having that though on there. I mean, I've learned a lot. So it's been good.
And so so you said you had 10 in the bank, and this is something that we've faced a little bit so far in our journey, is how do you get 10 in the bank, but still not be so far behind the current event thing? Like you could be talking about something in March and then not air it until, months later.
Yeah. Well, I'm not that far out. But I don't really deal with current events. Okay. I deal with who's my guest? What are they known for? Or what are they passionate about? We talk about that. And then we talk about their life story and their faith journey. And when I found this recipe that seems to work and resonate with my listeners, I have not changed it.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I've had a lot of people say, Pete, you need to spice it up. You need to, you need to evolve. You need to, I said, why? Great examples, Tiger Woods. He ruined his career by getting a swing coach. He was dominating his sport. Okay. Dominating like no one had ever seen in any sport whatsoever. And at the peak of his career, he said, I'm going to change up and I'm going to change my entire swing. And he struggled for a decade and really never recovered from it, And so it's one of those things, you find what works and you just keep it. Why change?
Yeah.
I mean, Coca-Cola, before y'all's time, somewhere in the 80s, early 90s, they said, we're going to make a new recipe for Coca-Cola. Why? It's been working since 1901.
Wow.
They wanted to freshen it up and it bombed. They spent billions trying to market and pushing it. It was terrible. It tasted like a flat RC Cola. What it tasted like. And I like RC Cola, but it was like a flat RC Cola. And they quickly went right back to their old recipe, and so I found something that works. I just stay with it.
All right, folks, listen up. Have you ever felt like you're running on empty? Whether it's early mornings in the creek or late nights chasing your goals, we've got the answer for you. First Form.
That's right. First Form is the ultimate fuel to keep you strong, focused, and feeling your best. From high-quality protein to pre-workouts and multivitamins, they've got everything you need to tackle your day head-on.
And here's the kicker. When you order through our link, you're not just taking care of yourself, but you help keep this podcast going strong. Together, we're chasing faith, fitness, wellness, and the next big catch.
So what are you waiting for? Check out the link in our bio or show notes. Get the good stuff, support the Casting Faith podcast, and let's crush some goals together.
All right. Another question I have, in regards to your success as a podcaster, and this is something that we're kind of navigating now, is how do you balance your outdoor life? You kind of gave us some inside view of what your work life is, your outdoor activities, podcasting, ministry, and your personal life. How do you balance all of that and stay so consistent with your podcast?
It's like juggling chainsaws.
Yeah.
I found, and at first when I started the podcast, it was a really big challenge. Trying to figure out when to get people on the show and what works and what doesn't work and so forth. And my USDA job, I'm very blessed in that I have a flexible schedule. And so I know what, having done this for 15 years at USDA, I know it's days I have the least amount of work. And so I schedule all my podcasts on Mondays. And that's what works for me. And so, but at first it was all over the place. I mean, all over the place. It would be Tuesday at 10 o'clock and then Wednesday at 9:30 at night. And I was like, okay, this is just, it's working me to death. Right. And so I came up, I don't remember when I started doing it. It's probably about the time I hired Charlene to start doing all my scheduling for me about 2 years ago. And I said, well, I got to get consistent from my schedule so that I can do this. My kids are grown. They were in college at the time. Well, two of them were in college and one was still at home when I started this. So I didn't have that, to deal with. So I schedule all my shows for the same day. Occasionally I have to do a diversion to that. Like I have one tomorrow night on Tuesday because that's what worked for him. But most of the time they're on Mondays. And by blocking out that time, then I'm able to say, this is podcast day. And I've also learned I can't do more than 3 a day because my brain is mush. Mush. Yeah. I mean, 3's hard.
Yeah.
Three in a day is hard because you're just, your own for an hour. Right. What it's like, just think about preaching 3 sermons in the same day. I mean, you're exhausted when you get done, mentally just completely drained. So I try to do at least 2 every Monday, and sometimes I'll do 3. And that's how you get ahead.
Yeah.
Right. That's by booking multiples on the same day, back to back. Usually, all right. So I try to record for an hour. I allow 2 hours between show. So if I do one at 9 in the morning, the next one's scheduled for 11:30. In case this one runs over, and then I have time to rest, get something to drink, go to the bathroom, maybe get a snack. You know, me and Little Debbie. I love me some Little Debbie's now. I said this the other day. If you ever find my dead body, there's going to be empty Little Debbie wrappers around me everywhere.
Quick question: is it fudge round or oatmeal cream pie?
Neither.
Neither. Nutter butter. Nutty Buddy.
I love the Nutty Buddies. I love the Swiss rolls, and I love the the peanut butter cream pies. Those are like,
Nice.
oh my gosh, that is sin in ceramic. I mean, in cellophane. That is
Yeah.
sin in cellophane. Golly, it is so good. It is so good. You know, my cardiologist doesn't like it, but I mean, I actually have to not buy them. I'm so addicted to them, guys. I need me a Little Debbie. I need me a Little Debbie.
They'll probably reach out for a sponsorship with you.
I need to do that. I need to reach out to Little Debbie. Get me a Big Deborah shirt and be ready to roll. So I do everything on Mondays. Is how I do it. But I didn't start there, and like my writing that I do for magazines and stuff, I do the same thing. I block out days. I have columns that I write, and I say, okay, these are due. I'm usually about 6 months ahead on my writing though, because I know that they're columns and I know the season of the year is going to be. And so I can write fall stuff right now without any problem. You know, it's not a big deal. But anyway, that's how you do it. You just block out time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, one of the cool things with having you on and being on your show is we're learning a lot here. And
we're learning our fails.
Yeah, we're grateful. We're grateful for your gratitude and sharing.
Help
this.
you anyway.
And thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
Sure.
But that being said, do you have any advice for a young podcast like us in the same field? You know, we talked about this on our show with you. You know, a rising tide lifts all sails. Do you have any advice? We're 19 episodes in now. You got any advice for us in our first year?
Well, I want to repeat some of the things I said on mine in case your listeners don't hear that. Is be consistent. You know, I don't know. Do y'all have a specific day that you release your shows? Do that every week. You know, if you say we're going to do 50 episodes this year, you got to do 50. If you say you're going to release on Mondays, you can't release it on Tuesday. Because here's the thing. Think about the listener. If you're in the car and you're looking for a Casting Faith podcast, and I've already listened to that one, and it's supposed to come out that day, they've already jumped to another show.
Yeah.
And if that show hooks them, you just lost a listener.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. And so I have mine released Monday mornings at 5 a.m. Eastern time. That's when they release. I use Libsyn. They're not a sponsor either. I use Libsyn as my host who throws it out to all the platforms. And they release on Monday mornings at 5 a.m. And that is without fail. I have not missed a single episode since I started, except when I told the listeners I'm going to be taking off. So, and I didn't have anything in the bank. I ran low. But like I told you before, I'm having surgery in April. I'm going to be out for months, right? I'll be out of work for at least 4 months from my shoulder. So I am just really cramming in March to make sure I have enough shows to carry me until I can start recording again.
Wow.
Right.
And so if you say you're going to do it, that is the thing in podcasting is consistency. Even if, you know, you couldn't get a guest lined up. I've got 2 guys that have bailed me out so many times, Chris and John. And John co-hosts with me some now, right? And they're pastors. One's in Kentucky, one's in upstate New York. And I'm like, guys, my guest bailed on me, and because sometimes they just don't show up. The guests don't even email you and say, I can't make it. They just don't show up. You block in your time, you're there, and they don't show up. They don't get a second chance. And I mean, I know that's grace, but you know, we had this scheduled weeks ago, and you know what it's like. Charlene sends out a reminder. Don't forget the show. Are you still good? Because if you're not, we can throw somebody else in there. Right. Yeah. But that happens. But when you have somebody that can bail you out, say, hey, John, I need a show. Are you available Monday, Tuesday? Tell me when you're available, and we'll make a show. And we make a show. And so you got to be consistent. That's number one. And number 2 is, and which you already know this, is you got to have good mics. You got to have decent audio. You don't want us down or like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, wah, wah,
Yeah.
wah, 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 wah.
Yeah.
You got to have good audio sound, and you got to be consistent. That is the thing. That is it.
Yeah.
And the listeners will come.
Now, have you always been video too, or did you make that transition?
No, I didn't. I should have, but because I am not a video editor, I am terrible at it. Okay. I don't have a Sean. Okay. And so I didn't start video until
You
January
could
of
for the
last
right
year.
price.
Well, considering what I'm charging you to be on your show, I think we can work out a deal here. Maybe we should talk. I mean, seriously.
Well, hey, I know this. If you ever need to fill one of those guest spots, we'll be here for you.
All right. Same. And I mean that same. Because
Awesome.
I know what it's like to be left out to dry like that. So just reach out to Charlene. She'll put you on the books and we'll get it done. Because she does 100% of my schedule. I don't do any of it anymore.
Awesome.
She's great, by the way. She's worth her penny. She's such a sweet person. And so
thank you. I have a Google sheet that has all my interviews on it, and I have a Google sheet with all my shows on it when they're supposed to air, and all the contact information is on it. And she just puts it in there, and she puts it on my calendar. And so I'm like, who am I interviewing tomorrow? Okay, well, you got Charlie and Sean tomorrow night at 6:00. I said, night? She said, you remember? Oh yeah, I remember now. Okay.
Yeah, my wife's car died.
Yeah.
And then we got snowed out too.
Yeah,
It was like that polar vortex we brought on.
Sure.
It's fine. I mean, stuff happens, right? I had to postpone a show yesterday that was I hardly ever do them on Sundays. I had one for last night, but they're West Coast, Pacific Northwest, the Soul Seekers podcast. But I had to cancel last minute because I had something come up this weekend. Well, I say last minute. I gave notice and we're rescheduling. That stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
Just let them know ahead of time. I would say, again, be consistent and try to get ahead when you can.
Yeah.
So if y'all need to take a Saturday and do 4 or 5 shows back to back, or 2 or 3, that's really all you can do well. It's 2 or 3. And then you're just done.
Yeah.
Do that, but try to work ahead and be consistent. What days do y'all release?
Fridays.
Mm-hmm. At the
or
same
Thursday
time
at midnight. Yeah. Like something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Then just make sure you do that every time.
Mm-hmm.
Do that every time. And don't miss. If you know you're going on family vacation, since you got 2 of you, one of you can do a show alone if you have to.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have an extra Pete. But that's another reason John's doing some co-hosting with me now, because he's been on so many episodes anyway. And
People are used to it.
In case when my shoulder, if John has to do some shows, he can.
Yeah.
And the listeners will already know who he is and be used to him.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's very good. Thank you so much for that advice.
Absolutely.
We're going to move on to a next segment, and this will be one of our last. This is a fun segment we do. It's called Overrated, Underrated. Overrated, Underrated. And so basically all this is you're just going to give us your thoughts and opinions on this. Usually there's a theme song, but that's okay. But overrated, underrated. And the first topic is this: camping in the summer versus, I don't know anybody who does this, but winter camping.
The outdoor boys.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That guy's, that's got a different level. He's a different level. Okay. Summer. All right. Now I live in the South. Okay. Where mosquitoes are the state bird. Okay. So I don't camp in the summer unless I got thermocells running everywhere. Okay. Because of the mosquitoes. I mean, the mosquitoes will absolutely carry you off. Plus, when it's 95 degrees at 10 o'clock at night, it's miserable.
Yeah.
So spring or fall, to answer your question, winter.
Yeah.
All day long. Winter. All day long.
I guess I'm like skewed because Ohio winters are negatives. So
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Hot.
yeah.
The heat is. So I was down on the Amazon River in Manaus, Brazil, 2 summers ago, and the high during the day was like 120 plus degrees plus the heat index and stuff. And then even when you'd walk out at night, it was still like 95 to 100 degrees. Just absolutely miserable.
And
I didn't see a single mosquito though. I expected to see mosquitoes in the Amazon, but
I would have too.
I took enough malaria meds to kill every mosquito that bit me and didn't see one.
It's just, I don't know why I still live in the South, because I hate the summer so much, but this is home, right? You go outside and I tell people you're sweating in the shower. Why even shower? I mean, it's so humid. It's so hot. You don't breathe, you swallow. The air is so heavy. It's just, it's oppressive. It is.
You get in the pool and you get hotter.
Yeah, it's a bathtub. Yeah. You got 25,000 gallon bathtub. That's what
Perspective is everything, because anyone in Ohio is like, oh, I hate our winters so much. It's so cold. I wish I was in the South. And now we got someone from the South saying it's so hot. We just wish we were
so hot.
Colder weather.
Yes.
Which is so funny.
Yes.
There's got to be that just right place. We just haven't found it yet.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it does. Where it's cold, but not a lot of snow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I like snow because we never get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if I had to shovel it every day to go to work, I probably wouldn't like it.
Yeah. You'd be probably getting 2 shoulder repairs at this point in this winter.
I would have a machine blowing it.
There it is.
I can assure you that. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Next topic: fishing with live bait versus fishing with lures.
For what?
Any fish. Yeah.
Oh, it depends on what you're fishing for there.
There we go.
It does. It does. I was fishing, doing a story on crappie fishing. We don't have crappie down here. We have crappie.
There it is.
That's what he says too.
Yeah. We don't.
I say crappie.
We throw crappie back because they're not big enough to eat. Okay. But I was fishing with a guide one day and for a story on crappie fishing. He was using jig heads with minnows on it as opposed to artificial. And I asked him for the story, why do you use minnows? He said, you can't fish a minnow wrong. I'm like, and he's got clients that are paying him to catch fish. You can't fish a minnow wrong. If I'm fishing for, when I go to Canada fishing for walleye, it's minnows all day long. All day long. I will fish minnows all day long. If I'm fishing for crappie, I will fish minnows. If I'm fishing for striped bass, I will fish minnows or herring, blueback herring. If I'm fishing for bass, I'm throwing artificials.
Yeah.
If I'm fishing for bluegill, it's crickets. Okay. So it just depends on the species, It really does. If I'm fishing for catfish, I'm fishing with dead live bait.
Yeah. So crappie. That's one of my favorite fish to fish with, or to fish for. And here in Ohio, we got a reservoir up here, Mogador Reservoir, and the limit's like 30 a day.
That's what ours is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty fun.
But they have to be a certain size.
I don't think there's
is there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Depending on which lake we're on, but it's still like 9 inches. It's still a pretty small fish.
Yeah.
I wouldn't keep a 9-inch crappie. I'd throw it back.
Yeah.
But I do. To answer your question, depends on the species. Now for brim, I want to clarify this. I love catching bluegill. Okay. And if I don't have crickets, the black beetle spin with the yellow stripes on it is the smallest they make. They used to make a 1/50th ounce. They don't make that anymore. All right. It's a 1/32. That is a bluegill killing machine. It should be illegal.
Yeah.
You can't keep them off. I love that on a 4-foot ultralight rod. That is so much fun.
So I found this lure a couple of years back, and I've used it for bass fishing. I've used it for crappie fishing, I've caught a lot of different, I've even caught catfish on it. And it's a Berkeley power bait. It's like a weighted hook inside of it already. And it's a little baby shad.
Yeah. That's a good bait.
Man, that's like one of those go-to lures in my tackle box now, because I've caught just about everything on it.
Yeah.
And they make various sizes, like a 2-inch and a 1-inch one, but the 1-inch one kills the crappie, and it's like mimics a minnow. So makes sense. But it's one of my favorites.
One of the rules in fishing is if they're not biting, make your bait smaller and smaller and smaller until you get a bite.
Yeah.
Always go smaller. Go smaller. And it's it just depends on what I'm fishing for. But the MEPS, it says they've caught more fish than any other lure ever made. And a MEPS 0 with the squirrel tail hair on it is pretty hard to keep fish off of.
Yeah.
My wife refuses to use anything except for live bait for any fish. It doesn't matter. She loves fishing, but she only chooses live bait no matter what.
I'm praying for her.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We just bought a bass boat, and so this year I'm going to try to get her to change her mind.
Okay.
Pete, there's a Bible verse. It's Psalms 19:1. It says, "The heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the works of his hands." You are a Christian outdoorsman, so much so that that's the name of your podcast. Do you have a shareable moment when outdoors and your faith collided or was strengthened? Do you have a specific moment?
I do. And it's a very clear moment. I every time I go speak at wild game banquets and sportsman's banquets, I share this story. I was hunting moose in Alaska, and I was sitting on top of a knoll. I'd already killed my moose, and I had another 10 days, 12 days to go with our group. So I was just out there enjoying nature. I had my 30-06 with me because we're in grizzly bear country. So in case you're wondering, I wasn't just out there just tree hugging. I was prepared. And I was sitting there and I was looking at, there's a glacier off to my right that I can see. And there's this valley down below me and these bright yellow willow trees and these blood red alder trees. And then you had the bushes, and you had the conifers and just contrast of colors. And I was like, man, I really feel insignificant to all this. This is just amazing. And when I said that, I had a moment, a life-changing moment, when I felt in my spirit, no, you're not insignificant to this, because those snow-capped mountains aren't made in the image of God. Mm-hmm. And that glacier isn't made in the image of God. And these willows aren't made in the image of God. But you, Pete, being a human being, are the signature at the bottom of this masterpiece. You are the most important thing ever created. Wow. Because you are valuable. You matter. You are the signature on this masterpiece. Because I realized that when it was said and done, Jesus didn't die for that glacier. Mm-hmm. He wasn't nailed to the cross for those snow-capped mountains. And his resurrection did not alter that river whatsoever. Mm. It did it for me.
Yeah.
And it was a life-changing moment. It was wow. Because we are the masterpiece of all of God's creation.
That's powerful. Yeah. That's powerful.
It's awesome.
And I think it's cool too. And this has been my experience too with the outdoors, it's endless. Yep. That experience of, you could say, go outside, go outdoors, and you say that to a bunch of different people, but that experience is endless. You're never going to see the same, even if you're in the same woods or same waters multiple times, you're never going to see the exact same thing every time. You're going to see something new. And I think that's a lot about our faith too, is that your faith, your relationship with God, the potential there is endless. You may think you know everything. You may think that you have experienced it all. But the further you go and the closer you get to God, and when you shut out everything else, God will reveal more. And moments like that are so powerful because that's his way of doing that for certain people. And so it's exciting. But man, thank you for sharing that. Pete, before we wrap up, where can the listeners find you?
I'm right here.
Are
they not watching?
I love it. I love it.
Amazing. You can right here. Where can they
have a little bit of a sarcastic sense of humor? Forgive me for that.
That's beautiful.
But ChristianOutdoors.org. Very simple. ChristianOutdoors.org. Our Instagram is Christian Outdoors Podcast. Is it? Yeah, Christian Outdoors Podcast. Facebook the same. And my email is Pete, P-E-T-E, at ChristianOutdoors.org. And if you have a prayer request, email me. If you want me to come speak at your event or church, email me. I love doing that. I love getting to go meet people face to face, because I do everything remotely, right? Everybody I interview is all remotely. That happened because I started in 19 and COVID hit. 20, right? So I had to start doing it. And so it's really good to get to go meet people face to face and to meet some of the listeners and to share some of these experiences in person. So whether it's speaking at your place or you just want to ask me a question about podcasting or about your Christian faith, whatever, email me at pete@christianoutdoors.org. And I'd love to have a conversation with you, because there's nothing I love more than Jesus. And second is everything that's outdoors.
Yeah. Hopefully we can meet up sometime. You can educate me on that turkey hunt.
He still thinks they're a 1 on the
No, I
dumbest level.
don't. No, I don't. I know that
I'm
I'm
trying to-
skewed.
He's like, I'm leaving. Oh, here we go.
He's getting a book for me.
So
There
you
it
want to
is.
hunt turkeys, it's called. So
Yeah.
you want to hunt turkeys.
He's an
Right.
author of a turkey book, and he's telling you
I got
12.
Yeah, I got 6 books.
You wrote that?
Yeah, I wrote this book.
Is it on Amazon?
Pete Rogers.
Is it on Amazon? Can I buy it
Yeah.
on Amazon?
Yep. In
All right,
2019,
I'll buy that
2019
book.
it was in 2019 it was the outdoor book of the year.
Really?
Wow.
Yep. And the first chapter is why turkeys. So you need to read that one, and you'll
Yeah.
see. And I start with Archibald Rutledge. It's the first sentence there. Okay. And but get it. It's a hardback with a dust jacket. And this is why you want to hunt turkeys. You got to read this book.
Yep. I'm gonna buy it. Pete, buy my book. Be like Barnabas. I'll buy yours. You buy mine. How about that?
Okay, that sounds good.
All right. Well,
Sounds
thank
good.
you so much.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Does yours come with the crayons?
I can send you a pack of crayons.
Okay. All right. Good.
Thank you so much for coming on. This has been a blast.
Absolutely.
These last few hours with you has been great. We're so grateful for this opportunity and for you sharing your heart with us and your platform. We really do appreciate you and what you're doing, what you stand for. And we're glad to be a part of this
Thank you.
community.
Thank you.
Really,
Thank you
really
for having me.
grateful.
I really appreciate it, guys, and the best of luck with your show.
Yeah, thank you for educating us and being gracious, right? That's the word. Gracious and patient with us, and for your time, and it's been
Absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
I
Thanks for having
really, I love the story you just told about the glacier. Just it takes me back to a hike in Colorado, and just being in the wilderness and feeling so alone and scared down in the holler. I call it a holler because I'm from West Virginia. I was down in the holler, and then I ran up on this moose, and it scared me, and I realized how small I was. But at the end of the end of it's like God created all this, and you're in the image of God. So
Yeah.
it's a really awesome feeling to be out far in the wilderness and just be isolated.
It is.
It's pretty
It is.
cool.
I go there every chance I can to get it, just to be there.
Yeah.
And that's what, if I may.
Yeah.
One of the thing about the outdoors is, especially hunters, more so than anglers, is we're so focused on punching the tag, on killing an animal, that we lose the experience.
Yeah.
Right. So one of the things as I've evolved as an outdoorsman is it's about the experience. If I get a chance to see an animal and to take one, that's a bonus. Right. I mean, I know I'm taking the chance whenever I go, because I never hire a guide. I always go unguided on public land whenever I travel and hunt. And I want to have the experience. Spent 2 weeks in Wyoming last year camping in the back of my truck, hunting mule deer and antelope, and had the most amazing time. 8 days of hunting mule deer, never saw one.
Wow.
Not even a doe. But I could see the Milky Way every night. Stars from horizon to horizon.
Wow.
I've never seen that except in Alaska.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing experience being in the wilderness. So don't get so focused on filling that tag that you miss the experience of being in God's creation.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, thanks again, Pete. We appreciate
Welcome.
you. Hopefully we can have you on again sometime.
Yeah. Anytime. Just let me know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Like, comment, and subscribe.